This is Dan Ferrisi, editor with Sound and Communications Magazine. Happy to be joined today by Jay Rogina, principal and CEO of Spinitar, a California-based AV integrator, very prominent in the commercial AV industry. Thanks so much for joining me today, Jay. So let's get started talking about different things going on in the AV industry right now. The first thing I'd like to talk about is a project that Spinitar recently completed that's in our August issue, our cover story, in fact, in the August issue, Happy Money. I know Spinitar has a lot of different projects going on at all times, but this one in particular seemed like an outstanding application of all the technologies you have mastery of. Can you tell us a little bit about why this was such a cool project for Spinitar?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously, happy money and all the financial things that are going on in the world today. They've expanded into a 70,000 square foot facility and needed a bunch of technology, especially Zoom and Teams, focus video conferencing and various huddle spaces, conference rooms. They're all hands meeting. They have game rooms, just a place to gather. And I know today's not a time to gather, but they're looking to bring it all back together.
Speaking about the corporate vertical in general, obviously in the age of COVID-19, as you say, this isn't really a time for people to be gathering, but people are slowly kind of drifting back into their offices, depending on what state they're in and what the status of the pandemic is in that state. What is your vision of the corporate market in the next 6, 12, 18 months? Do you feel like, the Jack Dorseys of the world who are talking about everyone working at home all the time are going to eventually win out? Or do you feel like we are going to be migrating back into physical office spaces? And whatever your feelings are, how do you think it's going to weigh on the commercial AV market in terms of the corporate vertical?
Wow, that's a lot to answer, Dan. That's a big question. You got your personal opinions, and then you got industry and other people's opinions. But at the end of the day, I think we're all humans and we need to gather somehow, somewhere, whether it's events, whether it's collaboration, that Zoom and video conferencing, all that plays in a very important role in the technology in the future of corporate. But at the same time, you do need to gather. You do need to be together and share information. Video only does so much for you at the end of the day, and you're not able to get the feeling, the touch that you need to as you're collaborating, as you're working through the problems and situations that you're faced with. So I think, it's going to be a while. I'm not going to sit here and say it's tomorrow we're all coming back to work, but I think there's a lot of reasons that we're going to have to go back to work at the end of the day. There's a lot of young families that have kids at home that you can't really work at home effectively. You can get some things done, but it's easier to do today because we're not at capacity. We're not as busy around the office and around the technologies that we're selling. We're busy, but we're not as busy. We're like everybody else, we're a bit down from an integration perspective. But I do think, you think about San Francisco, LA, New York. I mean, those cities got to come back, right? I mean, right now it's more of a threat, to be there. I think people are more scared to go back because of, some of the unrest. But I think, they're going to be getting more ready to be back in the world, to go have lunch with their buddies and to share happy hours and that during that work time.
And it does seem like there's an opportunity for integrators like Spinitar as people do come back to the office, even if a large part of the team still is remote. You're going to have conference spaces that can not only integrate people in the room, but people remotely, not just in the United States, but across the world. They have to have bring your own device capability. It seems like there's a lot of new technology that can be integrated into spaces, and there'll probably be a ton of different conference spaces, from medium-sized to huddle rooms to full-on conference spaces, all of which need technology to build this new hybrid reality.
Yes, I total agreement with you. And I think, one of the things we've seen right now, and my hope is it's a temporary thing, but a lot of setups that are USB based. We've been having trouble getting USB switchers and things because of Logitech cameras or some of the smaller cameras that people want to use at home or in smaller spaces. And so there's been a push on some of that. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, the technology is going to address the home, but at the end of the day, corporate, higher ed, you need that personal touch. You need to be there, and that technology, whether it's a huddle room space, which have been going on for years now. I mean, just smaller collaboration spaces. I don't think that trend is continue. I think you're going to need the larger conference rooms as well. So my hope and vision is that, this thing's 6 to 12 months away, and we're pushing forward with some of the new stuff.
So talking about some of the challenges that the commercial AV industry has faced with the pandemic, as every industry has faced challenges, every potential market there has been very challenged by COVID-19 and the lockdowns. How well do you think Spinitar has weathered all of this? Are you seeing a significant rebound into the summer months as lockdowns have largely lifted? Are you seeing new opportunities manifesting themselves? Or is it still a fairly challenged situation right now?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say I'm proud of our staff and entire company for hanging in there and working through this, because it is difficult times, not just from a financial or business perspective, but homeschooling. We have a lot of young families teaching their kids at home and not being able to go back to school, not having babysitters. We have single moms, dual income families, those kind of things. It does. Despite what people think, it puts a burden on everybody, family and business side. So I think we've weathered it pretty well. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in June and July, but it's just a slight uptick. We've got the balance of the year. We're in good position, cash. We're in good position, backlog. Business still seems to be fair. It's still coming in. There's still a lot of interest in the business. I think, until our customers go back to work, physically go back to work, there's not going to be a huge uptick. I think once that happens, there will be, but there is a lot of things going on in higher ed where we're getting classrooms ready. We did a large project at ASU that getting a lot of classrooms ready for them to come back. There's a lot of construction, maybe not new construction, but a lot of existing construction that we're involved with on projects that are keeping us busy. So, we've knock on wood and keep saying our prayers. We're moving forward. We're hanging in there pretty solid. In fact, we've actually hired several people over the last couple of months. So we've increased our staff.
That's gratifying to hear. I'm very, very happy to hear that. Just to button this up and to kind of round off the interview, managed services, things of that nature, is that something Spinitar is really investing in? I would imagine there was a period, especially during the lockdown, when it was very difficult to be on site doing any kind of design, spec, integration, installation work. Are you building out remote monitoring, remote maintenance, other kind of managed service offerings? Because a lot of people think that's kind of the RMR, the recurring monthly revenue our industry needs.
Well, we've been focused on that for years, and the big push was last year to start hitting that pretty hard. So we've increased our staff there to hit the managed services and after sales support. Any of our emergency operations centers are asking for staffing more and more. We're getting more requests for that, which is fantastic. I think the other thing that we're looking at is diversifying a little bit. We've hired an individual to come in and help us with cloud services. And how do we do more of that cloud services and offerings that are out there, whether it's the Zoom side of it or storage or security and that type of thing. So we're getting a little bit more diversified in that, but that is definitely the key. And I think that's part of the future for us at the end of the day is they're not going to come out of this and buy tons of technology, because dollars and cents are going to be very, very important. Cash is king. And people are going to conserve cash, and coming out of this, they're not going to spend it as much as they want. So that means they've got to keep their existing equipment running, operational, and fine-tuned.
Well, it seems very much like Spinitar, unsurprisingly, given its stature and prominence in the market, is very future-minded, thinking about those RMR opportunities, thinking about ways to evolve in response to the pandemic and in response to just the general zeitgeist in the industry. It seems like you're really prepared well to succeed in 2021 and beyond.
We sure hope so, Dan. We're trying, my friend. We're trying.
Well, thank you very much, Jay. I do appreciate it. This is Dan Ferrisi, editor with Sound and Communications Magazine. Happy to have been joined by Jay Rogina, principal and CEO of Spinitar. Thanks very much, Jay.
Dan, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.